Hi there, my name is Helen Baginskaya, and here I come up with the first video in a series of videos with associations which arise in victim's mind in connection with a psychopath. I'm a psychologist and I hope these videos will help you understand what happens to a person in a toxic relationship. What is the difference between pain during childbirth and pain of a person dying of cancer? What is the difference between person's death from old age, in an accident, or from suicide? What is the difference between the death of a loved one, divorce, and divorce from a psychopath? What is the difference between the fact that you cut yourself by mistake, you were stabbed with a knife, and when it is a rotting wound from a worn bind? I associate a psychopath with such a lizard as a Komodo dragon. The Komodo dragon has venom glands, that secret venom that quickly lowers blood pressure, accelerates blood loss, and leaves the victim in a state of shock, making them too weak to fight. What about the poison that still destroys after toxic relationships and prevents wound healing? I have noticed that even a short-term close relationship with a psychopath or narcissist leaves deep, rotting wounds. Mainly because the person ruminates over and over their experience and tries to understand what happened. She has a lot of unfinished situations or unclosed gestalt in connection with such a relationship. What is unfinished gestalt? Let's say you love coffee a lot. Imagine that you have been prepared aromatic coffee. You smell it, anticipate its taste, reach for a cup of this fragrant drink, and then it is taken away from you, right from under the nose. What will you feel? Shock, anger, misunderstanding, resentment, confusion. I think you will remember this incident for the rest of your life. This is an unfinished gestalt, and there will be many of them in a relationship with psychopath. And that makes such relationships so memorable and unforgettable. At that moment, a desire to invest all your resources evokes in your heart. Maybe I will get my coffee. And here you stand in front of a coffee machine, so to say, that smells coffee, and put all your resources there, remaining penniless and without coffee. It is very difficult to declare yourself a complete bankrupt. Forgive yourself and start all over again. A person returns with their thoughts to the same thing again and again, trying to take back what they have invested and possibly even get their interest. Hope is the last to die. After all, when a person invests money, he expects a profit. And when a person has completely invested in relationship, they also want to get at least something. And this makes them a hostage to a psychopath. I will come up with an example. People who invested money during the Soviet Union and then couldn't pick up it at the bank since it was frozen and then depreciated and turned into pennies. These people suffered for decades and couldn't come to terms with reality. They were constantly looking for an opportunity to withdraw their money. My grandmother, for example, deposited over 1,000 rubles into my account, and it was more than $2,000. In the head of the victim, as one of thoughts is constantly spinning. I loved him. Oh my God, I still love him. But he didn't love me. Were his actions and assurances of love false? For me they were real, for him just a game. Everything that was there can't be a continuous game, because I felt truly loved and needed. He used to be so considerate and kind sometimes. And person tortures themselves with what was real and what was unreal. You can get away from a psychopath, but you may end up with complex PTSD. What is PTSD? It is post-traumatic stress disorder. It occurs with a military after a severe traumatic event. Complex PTSD occurs when these events were many. With people who had a rough childhood or after a long relationship with a psychopath, that is, after prolonged psychological abuse. A person who suffers from PTSD experiences such feelings as if the trauma happened yesterday. All events are experienced in the present time. They are vivid and bright. The psyche didn't digest these events. Also, subconsciously, a person perceives each new situation as similar to the primary trauma and begins to avoid people, smell, things, sounds that would remind them of the trauma they experienced, which withdraw them into themselves. Yes, this is a real poison of the Komodo dragon, which destroys the prey without the presence of the predator itself. For a long time, a person did what the controlling partner wanted. She dressed as he wanted, said what he wanted, was constantly under stress, didn't feel herself and her needs, was constantly on the alert. When will another humiliation or anger happen? What will I do? Therefore, she doesn't know who she is, and she needs to get to know herself again. She needs to understand who she is, what she loves, what her needs are. What I described above coincides with the borderline organization of the personality, doesn't it? Yes. These are the long-term consequences. Also, a person often feels ashamed because she was treated this way, especially if the psychopath humiliates and screams at the victim in front of others. The victim also experiences guilt for being in such relationship, as well as feeling of guilt toward children who also suffered from a psychopath. You see, we got rid of the Komodo dragon, but the poison still remains. What to do? Where to find an antidote?